Okay. Hello out there. Happy Tuesday. Happy July 9th. Happy the day after everything happened again. In the Karen Reed trial, you thought this trial was over? You thought this was a mistrial? You were wrong. Apparently, all of us were. So well, I mean it's still a mistrial, but we might really see some foundational changes to the next trial based on some things that happened yesterday. I'm sorry, I have a lot of hair on my lip that I don't understand. Okay. So, I'm here to just give like a little bit of a recap of the stuff that happened yesterday, as well as just general updates that have taken place in the Karen Reed trial since it ended about a week ago. There's been more than you would think for a trial that's over, and I guess that's because it hasn't been like completely over, right? There's been a mistrial in the making, or a mistrial, which means a retrial is in the making. But there's usually not this kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that's happened the past day. So before we get into it, do me a favor, like the stream, let people know that we're here. I know, Slushy. This case's level of WTF continues to increase. You thought you had seen it all in this case until, like, everything that happens in this case, all the lawyers on lawtube are like, this is unprecedented. I've never seen this before. It's just a groundbreaking case in how messed up it seems to be. And I'm not a lawyer. Let me just, my disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a police. I'm just here giving my uneducated, but like I'm a lawtube watcher. So like I know a little bit. My opinion kind of coming in more as a jury member. As a jury member, if I was not the juror who talked directly to Alan Jackson, if I was one of the jurors who, like, my friend sent Yannetti screenshots of my texts, I wouldn't be thrilled with my friend, let me just say, because I was not necessarily trying to start all this shit that is, oh no, I said something. Oh, hi, Strawberry. I'm happy to see you. Ooh, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm here to provide an opinion kind of more as a jury member than as a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like that's all of us. All of us watching this unfold besides the actual lawyers. This is a good place for us all to get together and chat without a bunch of legal knowledge and just kind of look at it the way that the average Joe would. And it doesn't look great. If people are wondering what's the public perception, how are the people going to view this whole thing? Hi, come to my chat. We'll tell you. I'm the people. We're the people. So yes, do me a favor, like this stream. It lets people know you're here. If you're watching, say hello in the chat. It's nice to see you. Subscribe to my channel, set your notifications to all because I'm streaming now much more than I'm doing, videos. Although guys, I was cooking up a live stream this morning to continue my, oh wow. Oh girl. Amanda, you're in for a whirlwind. Sorry. I was cooking up the next live stream in the series that I'm doing about the troubled teen industry. I started one. I posted my first live on that on July 4th. So you probably missed it because of the day off that I hope that you had. You were at the beach, I get it. Maybe just go give that video a watch if you want, now that it's in the replay mode, because I'm going to be continuing that series on Thursday. Today, I had to stop what I was doing and talk about this. Actually, just kidding. It's going to be Friday when I talk about that. So, a couple, like, what am I talking about? All these updates. Let's talk about what they are. So, the Karen Reed trial that's been going on for months ended a week ago yesterday in a mistrial. So what we thought that meant was that the jury could not reach a verdict, that they were deadlocked, they had no agreement. What's important to understand is that the jury had 3 charges to decide on. Karen Reed was charged with 3 things. Let me pull up the verdict forms, because the verdict forms pretty nicely present what the charges were, even though, it's a little bit, it's not all the details for the verdict form, but it's enough. So here's the verdict form for count 1. It says, the state of Massachusetts, I'm sorry, it's blurry. I screenshotted this off of Lawyer You Know. Hi, thanks, Pete. And then I kind of I'm just doing what I can do. The first charge that she was charged with, offense 1, unaliving purposefully in the 2nd degree. In the above titled case, we, the jury, had to decide whether the defendant was not guilty or guilty of the offense as charged, purposefully unaliving in the 2nd degree. That was the first charge against our friend Karen. Well, or some people's enemy, Karen. I need to pretend I'm unbiased. Next, the second charge is as follows. Share. Thank you. Sorry, StreamYard just takes a minute. Charge 2, count 2. Offense 2. Man unaliving while operating a motor vehicle under the influence. So this is another way of saying that you unalived somebody, but usually it means not on purpose. It's through recklessness, through negligence, through something you should have been able to predict would have resulted in somebody passing away, but you didn't purposefully intend to unalive somebody. This was the verdict form that caused a lot of confusion for the jury. They asked a question about how they... Alan Jackson stopped... he didn't stop deliberations. He called for the judge to hear him about how this form is laid out. And I think this is an earlier version of the form, because I don't think that this form shows the amendment that was made to this form eventually. This is count number 2. So they have options here. They can either say, 1, Karen is completely not guilty of doing this, accidentally unaliving somebody. 2, she's guilty of doing it, accidentally unaliving while operating a motor vehicle under the influence. And that the reason can be because either she was under the influence of alcohol at the time, or maybe she wasn't under the influence because she had a high tolerance, but she at least had a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. Those are 2 different ways you can arrive at this conclusion. If you don't think it was number 2, then she could be guilty of number 3, involuntary accidentally unaliving somebody, which is where something that you did was so accidental that it's like a chain of events kind of thing. For example, if you've watched the trials regarding the filming of the movie Rust and the unfortunate death of the camera operator, Helena Hutchins, the armorer on that movie, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, was sentenced to was charged and convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Okay, we're far enough in. I think I can say the full word. Because she accidentally, without realizing it, loaded a prop gun with a live bullet, gave that gun, or put it, and said that it was a clear gun, and that gun was handed by somebody else to Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was rehearsing the scene. It accidentally went off. Alec Baldwin's whole trial is coming up, so we're going to find out his level of liability here. The gun somehow mysteriously went off without Alec Baldwin pulling the trigger, allegedly. and it shot the camera operator, went through her into the director who was standing behind her, and she ended up passing from that injury. So Hannah Gutierrez Reed did not intentionally mean for that to happen. She wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. She didn't intend to even set up that situation because she thought she loaded the gun with a dummy round or some, not actually a problem round. But accidentally turns out that was a live bullet. So that kind of thing is involuntary manslaughter. So I guess in this case, I don't know, describe in the comment, like in the chat if you're here, what kind of circumstance would be the involuntary. At this point, I'm just so brain blasted on this case. If you can't tell, I'm like stuttering every 5 seconds because I'm just like so much information trying to get out of my brain, and I'm not good at coming up with an example right now of how this could be involuntary manslaughter. So if you don't think she's guilty of involuntary manslaughter, the fourth of this like multiple choice question would be that you could find her guilty of motor vehicle homicide, which has two options under it, like number 2 did. Motor vehicle homicide by operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol and/or, which that alone has caused problems in past trials, but whatever. Motor vehicle homicide by operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.08 or greater. So this is some other magical category of like, somehow I was drunk and in my car and something happened that involved my car killing another person. I couldn't tell you what, but that's all that they can figure out that she was guilty of, is something somehow happened with the car and it resulted in a dead person while she was drunk in the car. Like, these are weird. These are weird charges. Spoiler alert. This is the charge that the jury was hung on. Turns out the other 2 charges, one that I just read, and then the third one I'm about to read to you, they had come to a unanimous conclusion about. According to certain jurors who have spoken in various settings, and their statements have reached the ears of Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, the defense attorneys for Karen Reed. One of those jurors went directly to Alan Jackson to share their opinion. The other 2 jurors were talking to their friends, and their friends told Yannetti, just so you know, they actually probably should have acquitted Karen on at least 2 of these charges. So it's a very interesting situation that we're finding ourselves in this yesterday, Monday. It was weird. So this is charge number 2. And I'll just show you charge number 3 as well, to show you what allegedly Karen Reed was also acquitted of, if you believe the gossip on the streets. The hot legal goss. Okay. So this is the verdict slip for charge number 3, and what the jury had to find. Did Karen Reed leave the scene of an accident resulting in death? So leaving the scene of an accident that resulted in death, not that her leaving the scene of the accident is what resulted in death, I think. Right? Did I read that correctly, Mr. Depp? Somebody let me know. Not that the leaving the scene is what resulted in the death, but that the accident resulted in the death, and the crime was leaving the scene of that accident instead of staying. So that was what they also allegedly acquitted her of. So to me, hearing this news was a huge, breath of fresh air. It was such a mix of emotions. Okay. I'm looking in the chat. So here's the thing, Michaela. She was not convicted of anything. That was the whole point, is that there was a mistrial, because the jury kept saying they couldn't come to a conclusion. They couldn't come to a unanimous decision. We're deadlocked. We're fighting. We don't want to compromise our morals. And the judge eventually said, okay, and it was a mistrial. So there was no unanimous decisions. Thank you. No. She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Which I think is like the reason, like, negligent manslaughter is not the name of the charge or the name of the crime. Essentially, involuntary manslaughter is the name of it, and basically it comes about through negligence. So like her accidentally doing something, and in this case accidentally loading the gun with the live bullet. I'm, guys, in keeping with the theme of everything important happening in this trial during a god dang heat wave. It's 1,000,000 degrees in here. I've gone as long as I can without the AC on. I'm so sorry. I'm going to turn the AC on, and then I'll hold the mic closer. Give me 1 second. Take a drink. Hydrate. My apologies for the AC sound, but if you're in the Northeast, you know what's happening here in terms of weather, and good Lord. So, yes, the jury had to decide on those 3 charges. I just showed you the verdict forms that they had to decide on. And they got more thorough instructions for sure from the judge about how to make that decision. I just want to... Those were not the only updates that have happened since the trial ended. I went out of order in describing what I wanted to update you on, because that was the big deal from yesterday. What happened like right after the trial ended a week ago was that John O'Keefe's brother, Paul, spoke out to the media and made it clear that he was siding with the prosecution and believes that Karen Reed is the person who purposefully unalived John, or in some way, shape, or form unalived John. So that was a kind of uncomfortable interview to watch, and a little bit sad, because as we can see, even this jury really doesn't feel that the evidence lines up with that. Excuse me. So that happened like a couple days after the trial ended. And then yesterday, everybody came back from 4th of July weekend and got busy with this business about the jurors apparently not actually being like undecided on all 3 counts. But also yesterday was the disciplinary hearing for former trooper Michael Proctor, who has been suspended without pay because of his disgusting nature, or at least what texts he sent during the Karen Reed trial. That news was huge on its own, but it ended up being overshadowed by the whole thing with Karen Reed, the jurors coming forward. And I just find that fascinating, because so many people were like so on the edge of their seat waiting for the Proctor decision. Because he's part of a police union, that's the most severe punishment he can receive at this time. It seems that he cannot be fired, or he's like, this is the first step on the road to firing. That's how I've heard it described by a few people. But yeah, he's in trouble. He's being suspended without pay. And if you don't mind me just doing the quickest also significant detour. We'll get back to the main story in just a quick second. I just want to show you real quick. The Trooper Proctor update. Michael Proctor had already been relieved of duty before this decision came down yesterday. He had his police-issued cruiser, gun, and gear taken away, so he was emasculated for like a whole week before, because he needed to have notice thanks to the union. So the notice was given, and he had his toys taken away. And then, officially, he has been suspended without pay after a duty status hearing yesterday. And I love this person. It's the most Boston name. Police Colonel John Mon is the person who accepted the recommendation to relieve Proctor of duty and suspend him without pay after the hearing. So Proctor admitted to making unprofessional and regrettable comments about Reed. Guys, I just gotta tell you, I'm happy to see, he's losing a decent salary here in the Northeast. This is like a pretty comfortable living, especially if he's like married and his wife also works or something like that. Proctor made about $102,000 in base salary and over $35,000 in other pay the last 2 years. Although I've also heard some estimations that it ended up being more around $180,000 this past year. So there's some math that needs to be done. And I'll also say, so the internal affairs investigation into Proctor remained ongoing. They said Monday. So is it still ongoing, or was it concluded with the disciplinary hearing? Read. Keep reading. The department will issue a finding on each allegation and relay the results to the state's Post Commission, which keeps police disciplinary records. In such investigations, if charges are found by investigators to be warranted, they are adjudicated by the state police trial board. So this duty status hearing, I think that's why people are saying it's the first step on the road to getting fired. So first they start with taking him off duty because they have at least enough evidence to say you did something bad. And then this further investigation decides how bad, and that'll be the trial in front of the state police trial board is what that looks like to me. So goodbye, Proctor. It's been nice. Hope you find your paradise. What's really interesting, and before we go into a little bit of a further breakdown about the jury information from yesterday, another quick little spoiler alert. After the defense filed their motion to dismiss on these two charges, because basically they're saying individual jurors have told us that the jury was unanimous on 2 out of the 3 charges. So these 2 unanimous charges, which they were unanimous to acquit, to not find her guilty, those should be thrown out because those are verdicts. Maybe there was some confusion and the jury didn't think they were allowed to only bring back 2 out of the 3 verdicts. And, but that's their motion to dismiss. Is they want to dismiss those charges that were, according to individual jurors, found to be unanimously not guilty. So the DA responded to this filing. And I'll show you their response. And just keep in mind the sliver of context we have about what just happened to Trooper Proctor. Okay? So let's just take a look. Oh! The DA is looking forward to picking a new trial date for Karen Reed after the defense seeks to dismiss charges. I think he really thinks he's doing something there, the DA. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office announced that it is looking forward to picking a new trial date for Karen Reed after her legal team filed a motion to dismiss on 2 of the criminal charges. Attorneys Alan Jackson and David Yannetti filed the motion after they said they received unsolicited communications from 3 of the 12 deliberating jurors. That's a little bit of a misleading statement, and we'll get into why. But I don't know why the DA is looking forward to anything in this case if, and this article is as of this morning, bright and early 6:20, 6:18 a.m., my time zone. Why are you looking forward to another trial where now you have to put up Michael Proctor as a witness and say, hi, everybody in the jury, meet former state police trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on this case, who fucked up so badly that's why now he is former. I hope you listen very carefully to his testimony and take it very seriously and really trust his police work, which we thought was so bad that we're trying to fire him over it. Why would you be looking forward to that? I want to see around what time, if this article says the time that was made. Oh, good. They have the whole motion. Oh, sweet. Okay. I have it in another source, but if you want a source to read the motion itself, they have it here on this link. This link is in my description about this article. This article link is in my description. Okay, we've just got all the thousands of ads. This does not. Oh, read more. Not from this article. Okay. So this does not have the time that the DA said that. I'll tell you, I saw reporting that the DA said that yesterday sometime between noon and 2, because I was watching the stream by Attorney Little here on YouTube, and her stream was around between noon and 2 p.m. was around when that stream happened, and during the stream is when some people started super chatting that, oh my God, the DA has submitted, like, this is their statement, that they're looking forward to the next trial despite Proctor. But see, I think that was in response to the motion to dismiss. I think that was. And the motion was filed, and the DA's response was given before Proctor's punishment was announced, I think. I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when that statement was put out, but that's what I believe happened, because I noted that in my mind when I saw that statement come in, that we don't know yet Proctor's fate, so that's a little bit of hubris to be looking forward to that. But as I said, the whole Proctor thing was overshadowed anyway by the jury thing. This has been a very wandering path that you've taken with me thus far. Thank you so much. Through the story of updates from yesterday and / this past week, if you count the Paul O'Keefe interview. So what I want to do to kind of describe this motion to dismiss is not read the whole motion, because I don't personally... I don't personally love... Hey. Why won't it let me? Hold on 1 second. Window? Yay, okay. I'm not a huge fan of reading legal documents because I'm not a lawyer, so I certainly can't like sit here and like nicely interpret these for you. But what I can do is look at the affidavits. So here's what happened yesterday. The motion to dismiss was filed, and basically the summary of that motion to dismiss is what I said so far, which is that the jury came back with a verdict of a mistrial, a non-unanimous, deadlocked jury about a week ago, and during a few days after that mistrial decision was made, the jury members, one of them came directly to Alan Jackson because they felt compelled to tell Alan the truth, or not that they had lied before, but like to give him the scoop on like, we were only split on one charge. The other two charges we acquitted, and we just wanted to let you know as you prepare for the next trial. I think they didn't realize that they were actually saying like, oh, we could have acquitted her on these two charges, which is why I think that the jury was confused and they were under the assumption or like the misconception that they needed to make a decision on all three charges in order to come back with any verdict. That's not the case. They could have found one verdict for each charge. But was I a jury member at that time? I would not have necessarily assumed that. So I get it, you know? It's just a really unfortunately significant misunderstanding in this case. So that happened like the day after the verdict or non-verdict was reached. And then over the next couple of days, July 2nd and 3rd and 4th, Yannetti received some communications from some informants about two other jurors who had independently, all three of these jurors are speaking independently of each other, not, in cahoots or anything, had basically been talking individually with their individual friends about the trial and had shared basically the same thing of like, yeah, we had come to a decision on two of the verdicts to be not guilty. It was that third one we weren't sure about and we were really intensely arguing about it, which is count 2, the manslaughter charge. So with that basis of these three individual independent jurors revealing in some way, shape, or form that this is what was happening. What it comes down to now, Yannetti and Jackson are filing this motion to dismiss because if Karen was actually eligible to be acquitted on 2 out of these 3 charges, that's huge. It's incredibly impactful to their trial moving forward. Especially considering the first charge she could have been acquitted on was murder 2, which is the most significant charge that carries the most weight, carries the most jail time. So if we could knock that out, what a relief, And then the third charge that she was, it was charge number 3. It was the second she could have been acquitted on, allegedly. That was the one of leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death. And I think that goes a long way for me. I said really briefly before I like looped around and re-explained everything. I said that hearing this news about the jury was such a like sigh of relief for me. It was a mix of emotions. But do you remember the stream that we had last week about like how could the jury have mistried? How could they have not come to any conclusions about any of the charges? Like. And we were sitting there and we were trying. We were like, why are they confused? Let's try to find out what we can think of that was confusing about this trial. And we couldn't come up with a lot. I came up with a couple of things that I was like, okay, maybe this is what they're arguing about. Or like, maybe this is what they're having different opinions about. But there was not a lot. There was a lot that was like, either you think this happened or you think this happened. There's not a lot of gray area. So it was, to me, it was like, oh, thank God. They are like normal, logical people. They can look at the information that was given to them and understand that, like, okay, yeah, she did not intentionally try to off this guy. And that was charge 1. By nature, if she did not intentionally try to off him, then charge 3 has to also be connected to that and go, because both of those are intentional and both of those are like related to each other. The one that they're debating about is charge 2, which is the one that Alan Jackson didn't like the jury form for. Yannetti also said that he had never seen a jury form like that before for that charge. And that's the one that they got confused about. And that confusion was not just kind of supposed by the lawyers. When the lawyers were arguing about the jury form, they were saying like, oh, they might get confused about this. They might be uncertain about how to fill out this form. But we see through evidence that Jackson and Yannetti present in this motion to dismiss that, yeah, the jurors did get confused. I sat here and got confused reading through it with you guys. Like, it's a weird, if you're not like a person who spends a lot of time with legal shit, you're not going to know which of those boxes to check, if any. So it's a confusing charge. So, hold on. A big way to have avoided this was if the judge had asked the jury, when they kept saying, we're deadlocked, we can't make a decision, we can't get unanimous, if she had asked them, do you mean about every single count, or do you mean for all 3 of them? Like, are you talking about individual counts that you can't agree on, or all 3 of the charges you cannot agree on? That was an important question that never got asked. I think it would have been something the lawyers could have asked, maybe the first or second time that the jury came back, but especially the third time when the jury came back and the judge just said, the jury is at an impasse, we're going to bring them in, it's going to be a mistrial, and she did not ask for comment from Yannetti or Jackson or the prosecution, and she just like decided, they're at an impasse, it's going to be a mistrial, let's bring in the jury, snip, snap, let's go. That would have been a time that if she didn't invite comment from the defense or the prosecution, then she kind of puts the responsibility on herself to ask any clarifying questions, and it seems that she did not. In my opinion, as a non-lawyer, as a, speculating online opinion giver, and that's something that they bring up in the motion. So the motion is basically a summary of that, what I just said, of like, we started hearing that the jurors may have actually come to a conclusion on 2 of the 3 charges. They were both not guilty. The ones that were not guilty should be dismissed. And some arguments as to why, including the fact that the judge did not ask for specifics about which charge or charges the jury was torn about, and if there were any that they came to a unanimous decision about. What I find the most fascinating about this filing is not the motion itself, but the affidavits that were filed from Jackson and Yannetti alongside this motion, basically as a source of evidence for the judge to look at. Because you can't just say shit, you have to provide evidence, and sworn testimony counts as evidence. So in this case, their affidavits are sworn testimony. So let's finally, after 40 minutes or something? Yeah, let's look at the actual motion now. Sorry guys, this is why I'm not like a law tuber. This is why I just like occasionally sloppily cover law stuff that I'm interested in. So I'm gonna wait. Sorry. I'm gonna start with the affidavit of Alan Jackson, because his his affidavit and his, evidence in this moment is a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more cut and dry. Based on what Alan Jackson presents alone, they could be having this whole motion to dismiss conversation. They have more than this, but just based on this, let's see what Alan has to say. So, affidavit of Alan Jackson in support of the defendant's motion to dismiss. I, Alan Jackson, declare I'm a lawyer. Okay. Number 2. On Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024, 1 week ago today, I was contacted by juror A, true name and identity withheld to maintain anonymity. This is not letting me highlight. Based on my conversation with juror A and that juror's description of who they are, where they were seated, and certain identifying information, I was able to positively identify which juror they were. Juror A told me that they were seeing inaccurate reports about the split, quote unquote, among the jurors related to the mistrial that the court declared the day before. Oh, how interesting, and how evident that after so much time away from the news and social media and just avoiding information about this trial with everything that they could, as soon as the trial was over, they went right to the media, like to watch the media, to read the posts, to see what everybody has been saying about this trial. And I love that this person was just like outraged by was outraged. Can I talk today? I cannot. I love that juror A was outraged by the inaccurate reportings about how the jurors may have been split regarding the charges. And number 4, juror A stated that they wish to be respectful of the privacy of the deliberative process, but did wish to inform me of the true results of such process, the truth. This leads me to believe, everybody, a couple of different things. 1, if this juror, the day after trial, is informing Alan Jackson for the first time of what the true results of their deliberations were, that leads me to believe that the lawyers were not allowed to go into the backroom meeting and talk with them and ask them. And this is something that I've heard lawyers talk about a lot on lawtube, is that when they have a mistrial, when they have a hung jury, they'll go back and talk to the jury about, and maybe not everywhere, maybe not all the time. Maybe it depends on the type of trial. It depends on the judge's rules, all sorts of stuff. But they find it very beneficial when they can go back and talk to the jury and ask, what were they hung up about? How many people voted guilty? How many people voted not guilty? How many people knew or didn't know what to decide, and why? Because it helps them, iron out some wrinkles the next time around they have to do this trial. So it seems like Alan Jackson and Yannetti did not have the chance to do that. If this juror is informing Jackson for the first time what the true results of their deliberations were, I think that that's interesting. There was something else. Yeah, no, I guess just like it seems that Alan Jackson and Yannetti and the prosecution were not informed of any poll results, which means the judge probably did not poll the jury when she went back to meet with them. So they were learning for the first time, like they did not know what the split was or who was thinking what. The judge didn't tell them, which makes me think the judge didn't ask the jurors. And I think this juror was just like, no, I need to talk to you about this because this is important, So let's go back to it. Okay. Juror A indicated that they believe it's important to disclose such results because they believe that those results significantly impact Ms. Reed's rights. Juror A told me that the result of the deliberations was that the jury unanimously agreed that Karen Reed is not guilty of count 1, second-degree murder. Juror A was emphatic that count 1, second-degree murder, was off the table, and that all 12 of the jurors were in agreement that she was not guilty of such crime. So that was a big a big point of the conversation, it seems, because he's saying it so many times. Juror A told me that shortly following the determination regarding count 1, the jury also unanimously agreed that Karen Reed is not guilty of count 3, leaving the scene with injury or death. And we looked at those counts. On July 1st, 2024. So now this is, that's the end of what Juror A said, essentially. And now Jackson is going into some procedural gripes that he has. On July 1st, 2024, the day of the verdict, or lack of verdict, when the jury presented a note to the court, the judge, all counsel were ordered to the courtroom. The note was not presented for counsel to review. I watched that happen on video. Rather, the court indicated that the jury was at an impasse. That she just said that out loud. Once the jury was seated, the court then read the jury note verbatim in open court, and without providing any opportunity for defense counsel to be heard, the court declared a mistrial and excused the jury. So she didn't ask anybody for questions. She read the note. It ended with a phrase kind of like, in order to continue deliberating, we're going to have to start to compromise our morals. She folds up the note and she's like, I'm not going to do that to you people. Your service is completed. There is a mistrial. Thank you for your service. I'll go meet you in the back room. Goodbye. And that was it. There was no, does anybody have any questions about this note? Does anybody want to be heard? Number 9. Neither Ms. Reed nor her counsel consented to the entry of the mistrial. They weren't asked, so they couldn't have consented. Number 10, defense counsel was denied the opportunity to request that the court inquire on which count or counts the jury may have been deadlocked, including lesser included offenses, and on which count or counts the jury may have arrived at a verdict. And I can see why they would not have asked that question before, because if deliberations were still ongoing, it was still up for debate. Like somebody could have, the first time around been at a really strong no on murder 2, and then the more they deliberated, changed their mind to something else. That was not necessarily set in stone until the final time. They only had to have 3 chances. They had all 3. This would have been the time to ask that question, and the court did not ask, nor did they provide the opportunity for the defense team to ask. Number 11, nor did the court on its own inquire of the jury foreperson on which counts the jury was at an impasse, and whether the jury could or did reach unanimous agreement on any of the other counts. And that's just a true fact. 12, had the court so inquired, it appears clear that not guilty verdicts would have been recorded for count 1 and count 3. Ms. Reed was denied her right to receive those verdicts in her favor. The foregoing is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States and the state of California, because he practices mainly in California, and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And this was written on July 3rd, 2024. So, verdict on July 1st, he gets information on July 2nd, he writes this on July 3rd. So he's like, we are moving, sorry, I forget that you guys can see what I'm doing. Sorry. So he's like, we got to get this show on the road. We have to talk about this now, because now I'm finding out we are not waiting for my affidavit. We are doing this immediately, right before the holiday. Sorry if you can hear me taking my drink. An absolutely wild choice to not pull the jury. Every day the judge gets more sus. People, I'm trying not to look at the outside stuff, but I keep accidentally stumbling upon stuff outside the courtroom that does make me raise some eyebrows. I think it would be for the best for justice and truth for this to end, for this circus to just disband. But now let's look at the affidavit from Yannetti, because this is where it gets a little complicated. And like I said before, there was a little bit of a misleading statement. So the affidavit from Jackson is plenty in terms of Like, if just one juror comes forward and says, hey, just so you know, we actually acquitted her on 2 out of the 3 charges. That's enough. That's enough to have a hearing, have an investigation, have whatever is the proper result for this. But now we also have this information from Yannetti in his affidavit, talking about other statements that he's received that contain the statements of other deliberating jurors, although they are not direct statements from those deliberating jurors. So when they said that they were reached out to by 3 jurors, it's not exactly true. I think they wish they were. It's not exactly true. So you're about to see. It's not the Karen Reed trial without some ridiculous family tree. I had it up in my other videos. The tree of mess and relationships. This is another tree of mess and relationships for this for this tree of information that Yannetti is putting before us. But he's swearing to it being true in his affidavit, so we have to take it seriously. Not that I don't take it seriously, but I don't know how seriously the judge is going to take it, as it's several layers of hearsay. Hopefully, though, it contributes to the need to have a hearing and have the jurors come in and say these things for themselves instead of their friends screenshotting their statements and sending them to Yannetti, which is essentially what happened. So, spoiler alert. Okay, so affidavit of Yannetti in support of defendant's motion to dismiss. I, David R. Yannetti, do hereby depose and state that the following is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. I am an attorney, number 1. Number 2, on July 3rd, 2024, I received communications from 2 different individuals, hereinafter informant B and informant C, not juror, informant, who had received information from 2 distinct jurors, 2 different jurors, hereinafter juror B and juror C, both of whom were part of the deliberating jury in this case. 3, to my knowledge, informant B and informant C do not know each other. So these are separate instances, completely independently of each other. Juror B was having a private conversation with informant B. Juror C was having a conversation that was then communicated to informant C. They were out living their separate lives, and these separate lives contained people who independently felt that they should contact Yannetti about what their juror friends had told them. And none of these people know each other. This was not some plan other than the jurors deliberated together. But the point is, they're not all in cahoots about this. Okay, number 4. Informant B, on July 3rd, 2024, Informant B sent me a screenshot they received from someone hereinafter intermediary B. I forgot about the intermediaries. Of text messages that intermediary B had received from juror B. Okay. I don't know the genders of these people, but let's just pretend. Juror B is Sarah. Sarah was texting with Julie. Julie sent screenshots of that text message to Charlotte. Charlotte brought it to David Yannetti, is essentially what happened. In that screenshot, Juror B texted the following to intermediary B. Sarah said to Julie, "It was not guilty on second degree," and split in half for the second charge. When the judge sent us back with that Hernandez thing to look at the other side, it turned into a bully match. I thought the prosecution didn't prove the case. No one thought she hit him on purpose or even thought she hit him on purpose. They gave us free counseling forms when we left. Okay? So they don't mention the third count there, but there's at least valuable information about the first charge, the most important charge, second-degree murder. Number 5, based on the first name, which I made up that name, Sarah. Based on the first name of juror B, given to me by informant B, Charlotte over here, I believe I am able to positively identify which juror they were and confirm that they were a deliberating juror. Now, juror C. On July 3rd, 2024, so these are 2 separate instances on the same day, on July 3rd. Informant C contacted me to say that they personally know juror C as they used to work together. Informant C and juror C also have a mutual friend, hereinafter intermediary C, guys, the triangles here, who is a current coworker and friend of juror C. So juror C is Mike. Again, I don't know their genders. Intermediary C is Roger. Informant C is David. Why not? Mike, Roger, David. Informant C, David, told me that they had posted something about the Karen Reed case on Facebook on Monday, July 1st. They told me that they believe that post led Roger to text them and inform them that Mike was a deliberating juror on the case. David, I hope I'm keeping these straight. David told me that they thereafter reached out to Mike via text and discussed their experience as a juror in very general terms. They discussed what an exhausting experience it had been and that Mike was relieved that it was finally over. Roger told David that Mike would be participating in a Zoom meeting with a number of friends to discuss what happened with the trial. Today, David, informant C, sent me 3 screenshots of a text message exchange that they had with Roger, intermediary C. David told me that Roger was reporting to them during this exchange what Mike had revealed during the Zoom meeting. The text message exchange reads as follows. Intermediary C, Roger. No consideration for murder 2. Manslaughter started polling at 6-6 and then ended in deadlock at 4 no, 8 yes. They were very consistent in the fact that they could only consider things that were admitted into evidence. Ultimately, they voted no because the cause of death was twofold of hypothermia and head injury, of which they were convinced that the vehicle did not cause both. The whole jury felt very intimidated by Higgins' presence at the end, which I think that's a reference to Brian Albert sitting with the O'Keefe family, like directly across from the jury during closing arguments. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, I would understand why they would get them confused. Too many Brians in this case, but Higgins was not there. It was Brian Albert. Next, they're not sure what they're going to do. They're going to lay low for a couple of days and see where it takes them. Hasn't ruled out anything. The jurors all have a group text going. So that's what Roger is telling David. David says, interesting. If it was no consideration for murder 2, shouldn't she have been acquitted on that count and hung on the remaining charges? Goes back to the jury verdict slip that was all confusing. So I guess I shouldn't say that. Well, hold on. So that's David giving their commentary. Roger says, she should have been acquitted, I agree. Yes, the remaining charges were what they were hung on, and that instruction paper was very confusing. So the confusing jury form, it could be that David and Roger were watching the trial and they watched that whole discussion, and maybe it's their opinion that the jury form was confusing, or maybe Roger is communicating what Mike is saying during this Zoom call to everybody. It's hard to tell exactly. Excuse me. So, David says, What a great experience for them. Amazing that they let the Alberta in the last day. I think that's the Alberts. Roger says they felt very honored to be part of it. They were redacted physical description of the juror. Everybody else was from a professional walk of life. They all got along and never heated. The previous juror informant said there was a bullying match, so I think that that's fascinating. I think that they're probably on opposite sides of the ending split. They agreed to disagree and respected each other. David, that's the way it should be. Oh, knew it was an intelligent jury. They will be studying this case in law programs for a year to come. How not to investigate and try a case. If they all agreed on no for murder 2, they should make that clear to the DA and the court. It's basically a case of double jeopardy if she is retried on that case. Now Yannetti comes back to him telling the story. Based on the description of juror C, Mike, in this scenario, but again, it's a fake name, given to me by informant C, fake David, and confirmed by the redacted content of the above text message exchange, I am able to positively identify which juror they were and confirm that they were a deliberating juror. Signed under pains and penalties of perjury, July 6, 2024, David Yannetti. So, you know, there's a lot of triangles here. There's a lot of layers of he said, she said, they said, many said. But the point is, 3 separate jurors in some way, shape, or another have expressed that there was no disagreement. It was not guilty for murder 2. And it seems like they weren't really discussing with their friends the third count, because the third count was not very exciting. But, oh wait, I think one of the exchanges must have said something about the third count. I don't know. I might be forgetting it. Tell me if it did. But because these 3 different people have made 3 different statements at 3 different times for 3 different situations, talking to 3 different people, sharing this, it adds some credibility as long as you believe the conversation trees that have been laid out for us are reliable. But even if you don't, the one juror who went directly to Alan Jackson on their own, without, my friend is telling you this for me, like they just themselves went to Alan Jackson, that alone is enough to open an investigation or have a hearing into what, was the jury just confused about. You are allowed to come back with 2 out of the 3 verdicts, or is it something where they... Sorry, guys, I got distracted. Completely lost that train of thought. Cool. So, moral of the story. I found those affidavits much more interesting than the motion itself, because the motion itself was basically just putting forth what the affidavits said. So, but just like in more legalese kind of language, and also providing some arguments that they plan to make if there's a hearing or an investigation about this, which I would rather just watch the hearing and see what arguments they make rather than read through it, because God, if it ain't a little bit oppressive, the multisyllabic words. But that's where we're at. And like I said, it does give me kind of a sigh of relief that it seems the jury, the jury makes so much more sense to me now. I was so confused when they came back with a complete mistrial, because I was like, but it seems so clear to me. Or at least it seemed like the type of case where you could be hot or cold about it and not like lukewarm in between. So this makes more sense to me. This there's not much else I can say about it besides it makes more sense to me. So I'll be following whatever continues to happen with this. The most that could happen is that Yannetti and Jackson get their way. Karen Reed gets acquitted of murder 2 and of leaving the scene of an accident. And when they do the retrial, they only have to retry on count 2, the manslaughter charge, which honestly is a whole trial in and of itself, because you looked at all, like, if you looked with me at all of those different lesser includeds, they're all confusing. They needed to be broken down and described and explained in more detail and with more examples and understanding than what they got in the trial, which was the court just kind of like quickly zooming through the instructions. And I don't know if that was enough guidance for them to make the decision, and that's why they couldn't come to a decision on that count, you know? I really hope that that's what happens, because I feel like that's what the evidence bore out in this case. To be honest, what I feel like the evidence bore out in this case is that John was not hit by a car, therefore all 3 of the charges should be not guilty. But I understand why, if you don't understand all of the different, layers underneath that manslaughter 2, what is motor vehicle homicide versus what is involuntary manslaughter versus what is manslaughter versus, all these different options, and does it have to include intoxication or does it not have to? And why do I think one of the lesser includeds does not have anything to do with alcohol, but the other 2 do? Manslaughter and motor vehicle homicide both included information about intoxication, but the second lesser included did not have anything to do with intoxication. Like, it's weird. I think if the jury had an option to convict her for just a standard DUI and go on with their lives, I think that's what would have happened. They would have just convicted her of a DUI and everybody would have been able to move on with their lives. But I don't even think they have enough evidence technically to convict her of that. But that's probably the closest that they've got. So I'll keep following this. Thank you to those who were able to hang on through my wandering explanation of this today. There's just like so much that happened in the past day, let alone the week before that hopefully you understand, like, there was just so much I was trying to say all at once. And then I get grounded once I have a document to look through together. Let me look at the chat, see how you guys are doing. The fact that it's 3 layers deep is odd. You would think he'd try to contact the intermediary or the juror themselves. So I think Emily D. Baker was saying in her stream that or was it Attorney Little on YouTube? Either Little or EDB was saying that the lawyers are not allowed to reach out directly to the jurors after the case. I think that either the juror has to reach out to them, or in this case, it seems that like informants or intermediaries felt compelled to say something rather than the juror themselves coming forward. But yeah, it does make situations like this a little bit strange, a little bit uncomfortable. But they had no reason to believe that there was any issue until the first person came forward and talked to Alan Jackson. So ooh, Bonnie, good point. Proctor would never have been such a horrible cop if he wasn't taught. This behavior starts at the top and is condoned, embraced, encouraged, promoted. Makes sense to me, especially when you look at those chats and see who else is in there laughing along. I hope the internal affairs conversation does not just apply to Proctor. I hope that some other people are getting internally investigated, but I also trust that that's what the FBI is doing in this circumstance, because they're investigating the investigation, which must mean investigating the department in some way, right? I don't know. That's got to be part of that, right? I don't know. Everybody say hi to Disney, my mod. I feel like this is such a sloppy prosecution. It should be located here in Florida. Yeah. Well, Florida's funny because I think because they have the sunshine laws, Florida always looks bad, but I feel like the rest of the nation clearly also has some real rough police work going on that we just don't always have access to because we don't have such bright sunshine laws as Florida does. Yes. Thank you, Disney, for holding down the fort every time. All right, people. I am on my way out for today. I have to go to work soon, but thank you for tuning in. On your way out, please like the stream. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Set your notifications to all if you do subscribe, because I'm streaming much more than I'm doing videos, but I am going to put together a video soon by the end of this month. It's going to take a little while, but I'm doing a stream series right now. The next one will be on Friday about the troubled teen industry, Paris Hilton, Bad Baby, the origins of it. I have at least 2, if not 3 installments left to do. So especially if you're interested in that content, subscribe and turn on your notifications. Thank you. I think that's all for now. I hope you have a fantastic day out there. Happy Tuesday. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Peace be with you always. Goodbye.